Hey guys, BMI here, today with a deck profile. So this deck is a Soulcraft deck that came third place in the Sydney Regionals. I managed to pick up my qualification at this event to Worlds, so I'm just going to run through the card choices that managed to get me there. So first card is Bellring Angel. So I'm running 3 copies. The main reason for the inclusion is that it's extremely stable as a card. It makes your deck size basically 37. It's very good against aggro in particular. Abyss is always a consideration, and having this will really stifle their ability to develop and pressure the board. So also it has some great utility in the mirror, for instance. Like, it's not easy for them to clear this without actually attacking it, and the sword player doesn't always want to be forced to attack this, but they have to in order to actually push damage through. So yeah, I think this card's extremely good, stable, versatile. You can search it out with Maid Leader. It's generally just really strong. Okay, so next we've got 3 copies of Swordsman. This card is essential. Although the stat line is a little weak, it's not a 2-2, but in this format, doesn't really get punished by much. There's not many 1 defense removals, so there's not really Angelic Barrage. Rune's not really in the meta. Forest isn't in the meta, so you don't get punished by Elfchild May, for instance, very much. And even if they are running those decks, they might not always have it, and you also don't have to play into it. You can tempo this against every other deck. It's 2 damage, and also it's quite strong against Abyss because you can tap their followers, which usually wouldn't be tappable, to be cleared. And Soul Dealer on turn 4 is like a real issue, so this helps you get over it. On top of which, in the late game, it has a lot of utility. So, for example, if they don't give you any targets for Leonidas, you can do a turn 7 or 8 combo where you play Swordsman, you tap the follower, and then you trade Leo in to get the Amulet forcibly. And also combos really well after the Amulet is down, so 3 copies seems pretty essential to me. The first controversial pick is just only 2 quick later, so basically this card's extremely good after Leo's resolve because it becomes 4 damage for just 1 play point. But I was finding trouble finding space to run everything that I wanted. I'll show you what card I replaced for the 3rd quick blader soon. But essentially, in the early game, it's not actually that great of a card. I'm not even running the quick blader Evo. It can be situationally good when sometimes I trade over something and it's only got 1 HP remaining, and then you can just quick blader and trade, but I mean, honestly, I didn't really feel like I missed the 3rd quick blader in many of my matches. I mean, honestly, if they let Leo resolve and they don't immediately win, then you know, it doesn't really matter if you have the 3rd quick blader or not. So just 2 copies for me. 3 Maid Leader, no brainer, searches everything in your deck. Everything's an officer or commander pretty much, and this can search Avant Blader to basically access all your officers, or it can search, like, you know, all of your relevant commanders because they all have a full effects. In a pinch, you can search Bellringer. It's pretty good. Next one is Triple Unbridled Fury. So this is also a controversial card. Some people don't like it. I think it's pretty essential. The main reason for this is that when you really high roll, it's potentially like 3 or 4 damage for 1 play point, and it also has a surprise factor. People aren't expecting it. So this is really useful for tempo matchups, and you know, when it works, it's massively snowbally, and when it doesn't work, you might just lose anyway with any other card. So I think 3 copies is pretty standard, I would say, like moving forward, but I think at the time I played this deck, it wasn't like super popular, I guess, even though it did come first place in the final GP for Set 2 in Japan. So 2 copies of Luminous Knight. This one is one of the reasons why I cut a copy of Quick Blader. So the main reasoning behind this one is simply that I'm only running 3 other 2-drops, and I felt like I needed more 2-drops to accommodate the curve, especially against decks like Dragon. And I really didn't want to run into situations where I had no play on turn 2. If you go second, it's a little bit better because you can always evolve Maid Leader with Evo Point. And otherwise, you know, you're kind of locked. Like Bellring on turn 1 and turn 2, like Evo for 2. I mean, it's good in certain matchups, like, you know, Sword or Abyss or something like that, but you're really wasting time against Dragon, for instance, or Haven. So When this does come down to the board, there's not many cards that really punish this. Like I said before, like, Rune and Forest aren't really being played right now. So with this being 3 attack, and then the fact that, like, even if they do remove it, it just buffs something else. So no matter what they do, like, this card kind of gets value from an aggro perspective. So I was pretty happy with this card, generally speaking, into the current meta. I would cut it if Forest were to become popular, for instance, or if Rune were to be popular. But given the regionals level of competition, like, nobody's trolling pretty much, so I thought they would just play standard tier 1 decks. Okay, next is 3 Gemstaff Commander. So this card is a staple, searches literally everything that's not Bellringer. And primarily you just search like Floral Fence early game, and then in the late game you just decide if you want Aurelia, Leo, Alex, basically whatever actually makes sense given the game state. So pretty standard card here. Next is MVP of the deck, so Floral Fencer, broken card. If you draw this early game, or you should be aiming to draw this early game, a lot of decks can't really handle the pressure, so it's the main reason to play Sword, I think. Extremely strong card, pretty much forever. Cool. Next controversial pick is 2 Novice Trooper. So I really wanted to run 3, but I thought it was more, it was better for the curve not to run it. I mean, I'm running 3 Jumpstaff, right? And I'm running 2 Novice Trooper. And on top of that, I've got like a lot of cards that, if you evolve, it's 3 mana. And Floral Fencer, if you're going second, it's also 3 mana. So I thought it wasn't as essential, and it could kind of clog your hands and force you into like awkward positions. And especially because I'm not running triple quick later. So say I Novice Trooper and they like evolve Floral Fencer and trade, like I can't easily kind of ping off the Floral Fencer on 1 HP. So I mean, I didn't really want to run 3 copies of this, but I was on the fence for a while. So I mean, I wouldn't blame anyone for running 3 or 2. I think the standard is actually 3. So yeah, it's a good card generally speaking. I'm running 2 Albert. Main reason for this card is I really don't like searching this card. If I search it, I feel like I telegraph my play. People play around it, leave mana open. And also, it's more efficient when it's actually in your hand. Like, you can't spend 3 mana essentially to search Albert. But there's a lot of situations in the mid and late game, especially where your opponent will just be like, okay, I can't play around Albert, do you have it? And if you have it, you win. But the thing is, like, they're not going to be in that position where they're on 6 HP with no removal if you had to spend 3 mana searching for Albert. So yeah, that's essentially the reason why I'm running 2 copies of Albert. Just want to hit it naturally. Avant Blader, really strong card. Only running 1 copy. I searched this card a lot, to be honest, of Made Leader, so I didn't feel like it was as necessary. Like, you'll know the games where you need, like, Avant Blader to build up your resources. And in those situations, you can search for it. You do need a bit of foresight, but yeah, I mean, some people run 2. I think 1 is appropriate, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. As long as you run 1. And this is my tech option, so this is my Erd. So the reason I run this is because I think that if your opponent knows that you don't run Erd, then they just might slam like Leo on you, and then it's pretty hard to deal with. They get the first Leo prior, and it can be quite challenging to go around. So I'm just running this as a deterrent, really. And also, it's like a good out to Soul Dealer on 4. And I'm not running like any great answers to like Baja or Fafnir or anything like that. So I thought, yeah, this Erd will probably do a good job. I mean, it's just like a backup condition, right? Not sure you have to run it, but I just thought 1 copy was fine. You can even search it if you really need to. So against Haven, you can like Made Leader, search Erd, and then like if you somehow let their Seraph like survive, then you can banish 1, almost guaranteed. So yeah, Erd's a solid card, I think. It could definitely be cut, but yeah, I thought it was a good pick for the event. Especially in a BO1 format with closed list, can really catch people by surprise. So Triple Leo, main reason for this is I think there are certain matchups where you just need to slam Leo, and then pretty much every Dragon player I know is running at least Execution or Erd. So if you run this into Erd or Execution, then if you only run 1 copy of Evolve Leo, right, then you might just no longer be able to finish the game. But if you run 2 copies, they usually won't have 2 answers to, to your Evolve Leo. So that's the main reason. And also, if you run 3 copies, you're more likely to actually draw 2 copies. You might search the first and you might like, naturally draw the other, and then you can more aggressively evolve this even if they have an answer. So I think 3 copies is pretty appropriate. 3 copies of Alex. I don't think this card is as good against Dragon, but it's really strong against Sword. In fact, I think it's strong against pretty much every board-based deck. But if your meta is completely Dragon, then I think you can probably cut this, but like not cut it completely, sorry. You can cut it to 2 copies, but yeah, I think Alex extremely strong card, clears the board, and if it survives, then they can't even like attack back into it because it's standing. Yeah, it's a pretty insane card. And then 2 copies of Aurelia, so this is mainly for the mirror, but it's also pretty good against Discard Dragon because if they play the Amulet, then you pretty much always get the effect of this because it's quite frequent they'll have 3 cards on the board. And it can't be targeted, which is a really big deal against Dragon in particular. And the stat line is strong, and you can snowball in the mirror with this against Sword. So yeah, overall extremely good. And just 1 copy of Olivia. So Olivia is like a very flexible card. You literally use any effect. I think usually I just get the Evo point if I'm going first, and then otherwise it's probably just like heal 3, draw 1 card usually. Against Abyss it's probably discard 1, heal 3. The reason I'm only running 1 copy, so for me, I think it was like out of these like 3 5-cost slots, it's between Aurelia and Olivia. And the reason I settled on this one is because I couldn't see myself playing more than 1 Aurelia per game, except versus Haven. And I think 1 of these against Haven is enough. So against Haven, they run out of resources. You heal for 3, and then all of a sudden double Aegis is like 20 or 22 damage, but you're on 23 HP, so they can't kill you. And then you also discard cards from them. They actually run out of resources because when they evolve Aegis, they need to discard 3 cards. So they literally can't evolve to Aegis if you have Olivia. And then if they try to hard cast like an 8/8 Aegis, you can kill it with Alex or something like that. So I think it's just a really flexible card. And, sometimes you just blow them out where you go first in the mirror and they haven't tempered you hard enough. And you just play this, get an Evo point, and then you Leo them on turn 6. And that can be all she wrote, like depending on the situation. So that's the main deck. Moving forward, we've got the Evolve deck, so 2 copies of Floral Fencer. I've never really run into situations where I'm like, damn, I wish I had 3, but you definitely need at least 2. Bellringer, so this is your anti-aggro option, and it comes up in pretty much every matchup, to be honest. Like, whether or not you actually use it is a different story, but I think, you definitely want the option, especially if you're bricking early game. So next, 2 copies of Maid Leader. Once again, I think you do sometimes come into situations where you kind of need 3, but those are pretty rare. And they're symptomatic of games which are extremely grindy and something sort of went wrong in terms of either you drew badly, they drew really well, and just by nature, if you've actually evolved 3, you spend like so much mana on just evolving a 2/2 with Rush, and not really something you want to do anyway, so I think it's fine at 2. Avant Blader, you just need 1 copy. This searches pretty much Novice Trooper, Quick Blader. In those matchups where you really need like the storm damage, you can also search Swordsman. So this is basically your way of ensuring that you don't run out of resources. So definitely need to run 1 of those. And then 2 Leo, as described earlier. If you run 2 copies of Leo, then you can kind of be a bit more aggressive with how you use the first copy, even if it gets banished or bounced or whatever. And then 1 copy of Erd, because obviously you need the Evolve if you're running 1 copy in the main deck. And then Albert, you only ever need 1 Albert. Shouldn't really be any situations where you can afford to evolve Albert twice, and it's meant to finish the game on the first time you evolve it. So that's pretty much the Evolve deck, and I just show the main deck again, just so you guys can net deck it if you so please. So Eric, obviously. So the high cost is like all of this. It's a bit hard to see, but yeah, Novice Troopers, Floral, 2 drops, 1 drop, 1 drop, yeah, So kind of hard to see, but I'm sure you guys can work it out if you scroll through the video. So that's it for my deck profile. If I were to go back and play regionals again, I'd probably run the exact same list. I do think that within the next month, the meta will shift a little bit, so it may not still be the correct play to bring Sword, but I had no issues with this deck list. I think, if I lose, then it's not the deck list's fault, right? It's either, play a skill issue or I just drew poorly. Though generally speaking, I think I played reasonably well yesterday, but I got blown out a few times. Double Oracle was one of my only losses, so it is what it is. Anyways, if you like the video, just make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll try and post some more content later on. Thanks for watching.